Hey designers, I'm Laura of Laura Irwin Design and Games, and today I'll be talking about the pros and cons of doing a crowd sale. I'll also have Jason from Dungeon Drop on to talk about his pros and cons of crowd sales and also his Kickstarter. First, what is the Game Crafters crowd sale? Crowd sales are a form of crowdfunding just like any other, but instead of stretch goals, backers get a cheaper price for their game. The Game Crafter normally takes around 30% to handle production and fees. However, during a crowd sale, you make 100% of the profit. Crowd sales differ from other platforms in that they don't have a funding requirement to sell your game. So you can raise $10, you can raise $200, you can raise $1,000, and at least some of those games will be shipped out for however many people backed your game. For example, we can look at my game, Potions Please, which was crowd-saled in October of 2019, and the best-selling 4 Tribes on GameCrafter to look at the pricing during a crowd sale. Potions Please retails normally for $19.99, and my game costs $16.48 through GameCrafter's retail to produce. This gives me around $2.87 in profit after handling fees. With shipping, my game can become kind of expensive, around $25 to $30. Now, some of the people who follow me will pay that price, but I really wanted to give people a better price. When applying for my crowd sale, I decided to take $3 of profit during the crowd sale, and that plus my bulk cost of $11.72 came to around $14.99. $14.99 was the perfect price point for my game, and I'm really happy that I was able to offer my game at that. After my first couple copies sold at $14.99, for every 10 copies sold, the price went down around 5 to 10 cents. After selling 72 copies, my game eventually ended at $14.78. Now, while this is exciting to me, mostly because I sold so many games, it isn't really exciting for customers that they saved 25 cents. So that aspect of the crowd sale, because my margins were so slim, really didn't feel that impactful. However, if your game has a bit more of a margin and you break that 100 plus mark, you can really get amazing discounts for your customers. For example, the best-selling game, 4 Tribes, starts at $29.99. And probably because of how the creator priced it and its components, the possibility of a discount was 40% for over 100 games sold. This brought the game down to $18.17. So the creator was still making a profit, and the game was priced at an amazing amount. The Game Crafter has a lot of FAQs on their website, which can be quite helpful. So that's how crowd sale pricing works. For Potions Please, I would say the pros of a crowd sale is that there is very little risk. The most you'll spend is on advertising and sending your game to reviewers, and no matter what, your game will fund, so you don't have any risk of failure in that. The fulfillment, shipping, and credit card fees are all handled by the Game Crafter, so that's a pro. This saves you time and money, and it allows you for, if this is the first game that you're making, to not have to handle all of that, plus also crowd selling your game. Another pro is that the Game Crafter does have a great community of designers who can help promote your game and give you advice. And also the Game Crafter offers, with crowd selling, a lot of tips and tricks and information that's necessary for creating a crowdfunding campaign. Also, it being a crowd sale through the Game Crafter, it will be promoted pretty much every day through their website, and you'll be one of 2 crowd sales that are happening at the time, so you won't have that bloat or competition like you would on a Kickstarter. Now, what are the cons of a crowd sale? Potions Please was a really good experience for me, but I think crowd sales can be tweaked a bit. Potions Please did not have a wide margin for discounts, so the impact of the discounts during the crowd sale really weren't that impactful and really didn't drive customers to my page besides the initial $5 discount. You are going to want your audience to spread your game because they love it, but also because since this discount opportunity is a thing with how many games you sell, you want them to spread your game as much as possible. I also believe that stretch goals could be incorporated into Game Crafter, where they could be add-ons of upgraded cards or something like that, just so that way it gives a little bit of something exclusive that's only offered during the crowd sale for customers to get. Another con is that the Game Crafter is not as popular as other crowdfunding websites, so you will have to do a lot more work to bring your audience to the Game Crafter, and they won't organically see it as much. I've only done a crowd sale and not Kickstarter, but I do believe you receive backers' information like emails, or there's an area to subscribe to their mailing list to get updates about the game, and the creator can give updates throughout their campaign. Having an area to like their Facebook, join their mailing list, or to like their Instagram page, I think could be really great for retaining those customers and to give updates about your current game, but also any future games. Also, having a box with customers can say where they heard about your game could be really great for marketing and analytics purposes, so designers can have a better idea of what is working. Currently, there is no such thing for crowd sales, and it made it very confusing to see what the marketing and the demographics were for when I was selling my game. The game crafter also handles all fulfillment of your game, which is amazing, but as a publisher, you will still receive comments and questions about updates for shipping and any concerns that happen. You won't be able to talk about all these concerns, and you will have to direct them to the game crafter, which I think is fine, but it does lead to sometimes people being confused or upset with the designer and not the platform. So I think that could be a really great way to fix it, is just a consumer portal or being able to be on emails for customers to really help to ensure they have a good experience. Another aspect of that would be the communication around shipping and fees on the game crafter. The shipping and fees aren't always calculated until after the crowd sale. So when people see on their credit card that they have gotten a $20 or $25 charge versus what they thought they backed, which is like a $12 to $14 game, then they can cancel their game. People should imagine that shipping and fees aren't included in this cost, but I think just having an area that would estimate that before when they are backing the game would be a great way to figure that out and to clearly communicate with customers. I also think that the game crafter has a great opportunity to offer discounts to designers who send their games out to reviewers, and when the reviewers mention the game crafter in their reviews, maybe giving a $3 to $5 kickback or a gift card to the designer if they send proof that the game that they sent was actually reviewed and such. I think that could be a great way to receive a bonus and also to kind of like offset the cost of having to send out your game at the retail price instead of the bulk price. I'll talk to Jason a bit about his experience and the pros and cons of a crowd sale. So I saw that you published Dungeon Drop, and originally it was a Game Crafter contest winner.
Yes. Yeah, so we started Phase Shift back in early 2018, and we weren't quite sure what our first game was going to be, and we were just kind of watching for what was out there. We had our own game designs in the process, and then we saw, I've been a big fan of the Game Crafter contest since 2012, and we saw this one, and I was very curious, how is this whole components only challenge gonna actually work? And it was funny because kind of like watching along as the community started the voting process of some of the contenders in that one, there were a lot of submissions, and they were I just remember hearing the judges talking about how mind-numbing a lot of them were, because it's just pieces everywhere. That's all it was, right? It was just pieces. So they were just like, it was definitely an exhausting judging process, but we were curious what was going to rise out on top, and we saw this one, Dungeon Drop, partway through, and something to me seemed like it was a little special with that one. So, kind of watched along, and then no surprise, that was the one that ended up winning.
Cool. So have you thought about signing any other Game Crafter games to your publishing company, or are you like developing your own games?
So we're only a two-person shop right now. We're still building. Obviously, we're building now on something very successful, which is great. And I'm thrilled that Dungeon Drop was our first go-to-market product. But at the moment, we have three major, I'm just going to say games. There's different projects for each game, but there's three major games that we're in the works with right now. Dungeon Drop is one, obviously. Drop Drive is a second one, and that's actually going to be coming up next year. And then there's a third one, which is my own design, and that is Queen's Quest. And it's one that I'm carrying forward from a previous design firm from many years ago. In fact, it won another Game Crafter contest in 2017, I think, the Dungeon Crawler contest. but that's a much bigger, deeper game. So that one's still going through some development. Hopefully we'll launch that one next year as well.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really know, to answer your direct question. I don't know as right now we're looking for extra games because we're only 2 people. We have 3 games already. And of those 3, there's multiple projects for each. And candidly, we're booked solid till like 2022 in terms of what we can, what we can do. Because there's an expansion coming out for Dungeon Drop in this fall. Then we're going to release Drop Drive, and we're probably going to have expansion for that. And Queen's Quest is ripe for all sorts of modules and expansion content. So yeah, I don't think we're looking for additional, but I mean, by all means, we always watch the contests. We're always interested in the winners and what comes out of them. It's very exciting.
Cool. So Dungeon Drop has been incredibly successful. I've had friends bring it to game night. It's really well
Awesome.
known. How did it go from I know it was a contest winner, and then how did you take it to Kickstarter? I saw you rethemed it as well. And what was that like? And then how did you bring your people back to GameCrafter for your craft sale? It was incredibly successful.
Yeah, I mean, all I can say is Darren and I, my partner Darren, we're always very observant as far as like where's the current going to take us? Where are the dynamics kind of leading us to? And as much as we have plans, we're very much opportunistic in terms of what presents itself. So Dungeon Drop began as a Game Crafter contest. We reached out to Scott like within 3 days of the completion of the contest and said, we see something special here. We want to sign it and take it to market. And that's what led us down the Kickstarter route. So I think that path is pretty obvious and clear. We did do some retheming, as you said. We actually we thought about should it have a science fiction theme, a pirate theme. We went down all those different roads. We ultimately did come back and decide that the fantasy theme was working really well. And the name Dungeon Drop was like kind of perfect.
Yeah.
We actually had different art styles too. The other game that I mentioned that I designed called Queen's Quest, that's actually a retro style pixel art game. So it looks like an old school 16-bit console game. So we actually thought at first, well, if we're going to do fantasy, why don't we put it in the same universe as Queen's Quest and let's give it the same kind of pixel art treatment. In fact, you've played Dungeon Drop, right? So you know that it's a whole bunch of cubes. And cubes are, what are they? They're like pixels. So we thought that this was a perfect blend of this like pixel art, it's all cubicle artwork style, and then we're dropping cubes on the table. It made sense to us. When we got it in front of play testers and even ourselves, and we were playing it on the table, something about the pixel art wasn't quite resonating. It just wasn't having the right lighthearted feel that this game really should have, this like family-friendly feel. So we ultimately pulled back on that and went with what you now know, the chibi art style that we have there,
Yeah,
which was a great movie.
adorable, and it looks so family friendly, and it works really well with the game.
Indeed. So we ran the Kickstarter. Obviously, that was a great success and kind of opened a bunch of doors for us. And then you asked, what brought us back to the Game Crafter for the crowd sale that we did? First, I'll just make sure I'm very clear. I'm a devout fan, as is my partner Darren, of the Game Crafter. We've been on the platform since 2012. Love everything that they offer. We've made use of probably almost every service that they offer. Things that a lot of people don't even know that they do behind the scenes. There's designer tables at conventions, and obviously the crowd sales. We use them as our storefront for our design firm. So we have games that we've designed, we just put up on their storefront, and that's our sales, and so on. So really, the question I think is more so about how did this whole thing about the neoprene mats unfold? Like, why didn't we include it in the Kickstarter? Why did we do it later? Why did we do it on the Game Crafter? All those questions, again, just kind of presented themselves as we proceed, and we just made the decisions on the fly as best we could. The best question of why didn't we include game mats in the Kickstarter to begin with and just print them out of China or whatever? The answer is we wanted to keep, that was our first Kickstarter, and we wanted to keep it as simple as possible and manageable, because I've been in the industry long enough to know that you can overreach very quickly and make some poor choices. And we didn't want to do that. So we said, let's keep this contained. We have a small box. We have 40 cards, a bunch of cubes, right? Like, it's simple. It's cheap to ship. It's very lightweight. It's small and compact. As soon as you throw in a neoprene mat that weighs half a pound and is 14 inches or longer in length, the shipping complexities would have, been a whole different ball game. And we weren't prepared to do that for our first Kickstarter, not knowing what that might, what hassles that might cause us. So we decided not to include it in the Kickstarter. But a lot of fans and backers asked us for neoprene mats. It was the most common, well, that and walls, and we now have both products. But it was definitely the most commonly requested product, was having a mat that can kind of soften the tabletop so that when you're dropping these cubes, they don't spread and bounce on a glass table all over the room. So we did ultimately conclude, after the Kickstarter, we said, okay, we know our fans really want these mats. How can we do it? Could we go and do another print run with China? Sure, we certainly could have. But knowing the Game Crafter platform as we did, knowing the Crowdsale system, and we had run previous Crowdsales, it seemed like an easy way to just get the fans what they wanted with a decent price point, at least for the United States. The real pressure came in from other countries where, shipping from the Game Crafter was a little bit prohibitive, but at least for the majority of the backers, we were able to give them a really good quality, low cost mat that they were asking for. And we still were able to do very little on our part. As you know, the crowd sale, all we had to do was upload the artwork for the mats and then launch the crowd sale. And any purchases that come through, we didn't have to deal with it. We didn't have to ship it, fulfill it. It was all automated. So that's why we went with the Game Crafter. We could have made more money if we had done it through China and fulfilled ourselves, but we weren't in it to make money at that time. Like, for that purpose, it wasn't about making money. It was about getting the fans as quickly and easily as possible what they wanted.
Yeah, it's really great that with the crowd sales, you don't have to deal with like the freight shipping also from China, and also the months it takes like shipping over, and it kind of takes place in less than 2 months usually.
Yeah.
And so you were able to take, your audience really wanted these neoprene mats, and you were able to take this audience that was from Kickstarter and convert them over to Game Crafter to just purchase this product that you were developing.
Yeah, we basically told everyone through the Kickstarter, we sent out some updates and posted in the comments, and we had built some Facebook audience, so we posted it there too. Basically just said, you've asked for mats. We have this solution. We're, at the time we said, we're still not prepared to do a larger print run through China and deal with the fulfillment of it. But if you are interested, as long as we get 100 people, which I expected we were going to blow through pretty quickly, and we did, then the price point was basically almost half off the retail rate. And so that was a very acceptable rate for most people. Again, the big caveat was the shipping out of country, and many international folks still chose to do it, and they just paid the higher shipping. Or what was really great was seeing the community kind of rally together. There were some Board Game Geek threads, and there were some Facebook groups specific to certain regions where someone was trying to organize like a group pledge. I know in Belgium they did this, in France and Germany, I think. They would get like a bunch of people who'd want the mats. They place one order to someone's house, presumably, and then that person would ship out within the country, and the rates came way down for each one of those pieces accordingly. So that was actually really great to see.
Great.
And yeah, we just posted the announcements, and there were, I personally responded to probably 200 or 300 people who specifically asked for mats. So we knew as soon as we made a general announcement, there were going to be plenty of people who wanted them.
That's amazing. Yeah. So for Dungeon Drop, how did you go about building your audience for Kickstarter?
So that's harder. And that's right there. That's the magic question that every publisher, designer with a project really needs to have a good answer to. we did our Facebook advertising. We did community building on Board Game Geek. We did contests. We paid for advertising through marketing firms like, we used Unfiltered Gamer for some of his online stuff, live streams, beta tests, and so on. We did Everything Board Games. They put out a bunch of stuff, including a contest. So we definitely, and some of that's paid. A lot of that is paid. It does take money sometimes to make money, that age-old adage. And what did we have built up by the time we ran our Kickstarter? I think what I really wanted was about 2,000 email addresses in a distribution list that we could tell on day one, the campaign's live, please come on day one, we really need you. And we did not get anywhere near that. I think we ended up with around 850, 900 maybe. And that was building from zero. And how did we get those 900? Everything I said, but certainly the contest that we ran was a big part of that. And that's a double-edged sword. The contests will bring in a lot of people who want the giveaways, but at the same time, they're not necessarily loyal fans, right? They're not people who really, really want the game. They're people who wanted a free game. Yeah. And then there's some overlap, of course.
I've done contests for Potion Space, and I found that if I find the right blog or gaming group that honestly loves my game and they already have promoted it enough, then that way I have the fans are just like, oh, well, I'll just go and sign up to maybe get the free game of this versus paying for it this time. But it really brought a lot of traffic that way. But I got more followers from it and less driven sales from it.
Yeah. Yep. And that's like I said, that's the double-edged sword, but you still got to do everything you can, right? So that was our seed. We had about 850 to 900 email addresses. And what we really, really hoped was that at least half of them would back us on day one. And I know we had way more backers than that on day one, but I don't think it was half of that list. I think it was way less than half of that. Actually, maybe we got 200 or 300 from that list to back us on day one. But thankfully, we got thousands of other people. Now, how did all that happen? All I can say is we definitely had our Facebook ads spun up, and I think we had crafted some pretty good advertising imagery that really captured a lot of people in audience. We had some good name reviewers. We had Tantrum House, Unfiltered Gamer, Rado, and so on, and Slicker Drips in the UK. So I think, it was just, this was our first gig, right? So we said we got to go all in and do it right. And we definitely tapped as many of these different angles as possible. And I think we just had a recipe of a bunch of things done well enough that they all came together to turn into a very successful campaign.
Yeah, that's really amazing to have such a successful campaign as your first campaign. Were there any challenges that you encountered with using GameCrafter's crowd sale besides international shipping? And do these challenges differ from the challenges of Kickstarter?
Well, the shipping was a big one. Other challenges, there were a couple people who mentioned that the mats seemed very thin, and they're I forget what the exact rating is. I mean, they're normal neoprene mats, but I guess they're the thinnest of the normal.
3 millimeter versus 5 millimeter or something.
Yeah, whatever the numbers turned out to be. So there was a little bit of that, but not much. No, I mean, like I said, I had used the Game Crafter for crowd sale before, nowhere near as successfully, because this was years prior and we didn't advertise correctly. We didn't have an audience. We didn't know what we were doing. So for this time around, no, everything really worked well. I don't think the challenges were on the international shipping side. Trying to remember any comments that came up or questions. It really, there's always the question of what's a crowd sale? That sounds different. What's the Game Crafter? Is it legit, right? There's always that hesitation or skepticism that you got to fight a little bit. It's it's not Kickstarter, but it's like Kickstarter. And then you get people say well, why wouldn't you do Kickstarter then? Why would you use this other platform? So I really tried to sell the benefits. It's first of all, as soon as the crowd sale ends, they start printing and shipping immediately. Number two, if the more people that back us on the crowd sale, the cheaper it is for everyone. Doesn't matter what day you backed. Everyone gets the break, right? So try to sell those positives. And for most, that was sufficient.
Yeah,
We obviously ran into challenges with the timing. What was the date of our crowd sale? I want to say it was December timeframe, November, I think, ending maybe just at the beginning of December. And we were just heading into the realm of COVID. And then, as these mats were being printed and attempting to be shipped, we suddenly had a lot of halting of the shipments. And I think even some may still be outstanding, although at this point, I think maybe everything's finally gone through. But I mean, some shipments were delayed quite a bit. But everyone dealt with that challenge.
Yeah, everyone, even like in January, I worked for a company that was working in China, and then they stopped all shipping in January and February, and then everything came over here in March and April. We lost all our shipping.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I think for us, I mean, it was a great solution. It offered the mats, low risk on our part, low effort on our part. I don't mean to be overly promotional towards it, but I mean, it's just such a great platform when you have an audience, and that's the key. You got to bring your own audience, especially. So with Kickstarter, there's somewhat of a built-in audience, right? There are people who just browse the new campaigns every day. And anytime a new campaign launches, there's a million sites that pick up the ping and then they start blasting out like, hey, these new projects launched today. There's no one really doing that for the Game Crafter. It's a smaller site, smaller platform. So more important that you bring your own audience. And that's the hard thing, I think, is getting that audience. In our case, we had them through the Kickstarter, and they wanted this product specifically. So it was kind of a no-brainer.
Do you plan to crowd sale or kickstart any other games or accessories for Dungeon Drop? I know you did the walls recently, and that was probably just added to your website directly.
Yeah, we're actually we just finished manufacturing the walls, and then those will enter our two different warehouses that we have now. We have one in the US, one in Germany, and then we'll sell those through our website. But we will most certainly use the Game Crafters crowd sale again. I don't know for what. When I think about what's in our future, because we obviously are going to use Chinese manufacturing for the primary games that we launch on Kickstarter at this point. But one of the things we did with the with Dungeon Drop, and I don't know if you saw this yourself, all the cards, they're 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch square cards. We actually paid our manufacturer in China to make those 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch cards the exact millimeter dimensions of the Game Crafters version of that square card, right down to the 1/4 inch corner radius on each corner. We had them make the cards to the exact specifications of the Game Crafter so that we could let our fans make their own races and classes and quest cards and upload those to the Game Crafter, have them printed, shipped to them, and then they can mix it in with the rest of their deck and have everything match perfectly. We made the card backs for all of our different decks of cards publicly available. We made templates for the race cards and the class cards and all the little graphics for the treasure chests and the potions and stuff like that. We made those all available. So people, we called it the Tinkerer's Toolkit. So people could really make their own fan art and upload those to the Game Crafter, whether personally just for them, and then they get their own copy, or to even put into the upgrades store on the Game Crafter and then sell to anyone who wants to buy it. It's like, here's a Dungeon Drop fan-made expansion. Anyone can buy it. We, as publishers, fully endorse that and like to see the community being engaged like that.
Yeah, it's such a great major community, and keep everyone playing Dungeon Drop because they can keep adding new expansions and characters.
And it's so flexible to just come up with crazy ideas. In fact, we just ran a design contest for the little treasure cube dice. We have a bunch of extras. So we said, hey, let's see what the fans can come up with. So we'll run a contest. It has to include anywhere from 1 to 4 of these little treasure chest cubes and some new rules. See what you can do. And we got like 30 submissions, and there were some super creative ideas in there. And then we chose 2 of them that we're now publishing for real. So all of this, to circle back to your question, what would we do next time on the Game Crafter? What I know is we will keep doing what we did with Dungeon Drop, where we'll put out our templates, we'll welcome people to make their own stuff. And what I could see us doing is maybe curating the best of the best from the fans, like take these 3 races, take those 2 classes, add some quests, and kind of bundle them up and make one game product, quote unquote, on the Game Crafter and put it out as a crowd sale, as like a community pack or a fan pack or something. I could see us doing something like that, and then just permanently having it available on the Game Crafter for sale. We don't have specific plans, but I could see doing something like that.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, I just love that idea of being able to expand on your own like universe of Dungeons.
It's really exciting to have the opportunity. There's no question. I was going to say, with the neoprene mats, I will say that at this point, given how much our games really do well with having a neoprene mat, like it's a really beneficial add-on, we will probably just make those available through our Kickstarters in the future. So I don't think we would go the Game Crafter route from mats next time, because we'll just include those in the Kickstarter directly. But there's plenty of other great opportunities out there.
Awesome. Yeah. So is there any other pros and cons you think that are would happen with the crowd sailing, and would you recommend it to new designers?
Oh, I'd absolutely recommend it to, well, I say would recommend it with the big caveat that don't just assume it's going to magically bring you an audience. And that's, unfortunately, you and I are both in a lot of the Game Crafter groups on Facebook, and we see there's new designers every day. They got their great idea and they're looking to get started. And what I love about the Game Crafter community is how much everyone really does rally together and try to help and support each other. But I do think that the biggest thing that fledgling designers don't realize is how much the business side matters. If you're going to be a designer who wants to self-publish and basically get your game out there yourself, then you're starting a business, and you need to do the business stuff that comes with that. And that's a lot of advertising and marketing and sales and networking and business. And, the Game Crafter alleviates a lot of the logistics, which is fantastic. They take all the shipping and fulfillment off your back, but they do not take the sales and marketing off your back. And I think that's just so important for newer designers and smaller publishers to understand. So if you accept that piece is still on you, you can do it. Facebook advertising is fantastic. And I know we're just on the cusp of, we're going to need to embrace whatever the next generation platform is, because, my kids and their age group, they are not on Facebook. So I don't quite know what the next real marketing platform is going to be. Facebook owns Instagram, and that's good. But in any case, you can do it. You can learn how to do paid advertising the right way. It is a different ballgame. And again, some designers don't necessarily realize, I got to get into that. Like, I don't want to learn cost per click and ROI and all these business terms. But if you're serious about doing it yourself, you're going to have to.
Thank you so much for speaking with me. It's been really great to get a publisher's point of view on crowd sales, and someone who has had experience with both platforms and really giving like an overall look at it.
Yeah, we're big fans. We'll be on the platform for forever, probably, so as long as they exist. So very much think that it's the best resource that new designers can start with in terms of getting your initial ideas out there, bouncing it off of a great interactive community, get your prototypes made, and then when you're ready to go to that next level, whether it's putting your product in their store and selling professional copies, or doing a crowd sale, or going to conventions and running a designer table, or doing their art tests and sanity tests. There's so many good resources that the Game Crafter has. So we love them.
So that's all the pros and cons I had for doing a crowd sale. I want to thank Jason from Phase Shift Games for letting me interview him. Like and subscribe to this channel, like my Facebook page, Instagram, and keep designing. Bye!